Hello and welcome. I'm glad you could join us today as we talk about how to prepare your family member for a move to long-term care. My name is Nicole. With me today are three people who have kindly agreed to share their experience with you. We have Audrey, whose 82-year-old husband Leonard was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease several years ago. Their daughter Marianne supported her parents through the process of preparing for the move, even though she lives an hour away and was busy raising her own two children. Their neighbor Donald was also a great help to Audrey by doing errands and visiting with Leonard, his friend of many years. Come with me to learn more about their experience and what you can do to ensure that your transition goes as smoothly as possible.
About 8 years ago, Leonard, my husband, started changing from the man I'd known for almost 60 years. He began to forget what had just happened, including phone calls from our children, our friends, and me. He gave up reading even the newspaper, could not understand or enjoy movies or television. He mixed up his golf clubs and our bank accounts. My husband, a formerly active, animated and sociable man with wide interests, was content to sit on the couch all day. He got lost in the neighborhood where we had lived for 30 years. I became his compass to help him find his way around all aspects of his life. Friends stopped calling. Eventually, he needed more and more help with dressing and personal care. He was scared by the rush of water in the shower. He put clothes on in the wrong order or missed them entirely. Those years are a blur to me, but I remember feeling frustrated and tired all the time. I really didn't understand what was going on and was always worried about something, especially about Leonard hurting himself or getting lost. Receiving the diagnosis of Alzheimer's changed our life. We had an assessment for a move to long-term care. After visiting many homes in our area, we chose 3 that we thought would be suitable and were placed on their waiting lists.
I remember those days. My father was drifting away from us, and like my mother, I was scared and overwhelmed. As my father's disease progressed, I didn't expect and wasn't prepared for how it would change my relationship with both my parents. I've got 2 kids of my own, so I'm part of what people call the sandwich generation. I don't live in the same city as my parents, but since my kids were born, we always saw each other at least once every week or so. In the year before my father moved to long-term care, I was spending every Saturday with my parents to give my mum a break and to help out around the house because she had her hands full. I remember feeling squeezed for time and stressed about supporting my mother in her decision to apply to a long-term care home for Dad. You see, I have 2 brothers who didn't want Dad to go into an institution, as they called it. One of them thought my mother and I were being selfish and uncaring, and the other was really struggling with what was happening to Dad. He and my father used to be so close, and my brother just couldn't bring himself to face the situation. On top of that, one brother lives in a different city, and the other in another country. The last time I saw either of them was 6 months ago. They don't visit much anymore. I don't like feeling judged, and I hated the push and pull with my brothers, but they really had no idea what it's like caring for someone with dementia.
I'm Leonard's friend and neighbor. I've been through thick and thin with my old buddy, and I can't stand what's been happening to him. I don't want to think about what will happen after he moves to long-term care. We never thought it would come to this. We've been there for each other for 40 years, going about our work, raising our families, welcoming grandchildren, getting old together. I don't want that part to end. My own wife passed away a few years ago, and Leonard is one of the closest friends I've got, dementia or not. We've always been there for each other, even when we didn't talk a lot. I guess that part really hasn't changed much. I used to help Audrey out when she needed to drive somewhere. She really appreciated me driving her and Leonard to appointments and for shopping. The truth is, it made me feel good, even if it wasn't always easy.
As you've heard, the decision to move someone to a long-term care home is very difficult. Don't forget that you've made the decision based on balancing what's best for you and for everyone involved. Perhaps a crisis of some sort has led to your family member being admitted into a care home or a hospital very quickly, without giving everyone time to prepare adequately. However, once you've made the decision to move your family member to long-term care, there are a few things you should keep in mind to make the process easier. It's important for you to begin to prepare now. Wait times are unpredictable. Although it often takes longer than expected to move into a long-term care home, the opposite can also occur, with a bed becoming available sooner than expected. Prepare yourself for the move as if the call will come tomorrow. In fact, starting the preparations can give you a measure of control over what you are experiencing. Once the offer is made, you have 24 hours to accept. If you feel unsure about accepting the offer, remember that you need to do what's best for your family member who has a progressive disease. There are a few other things you should know about that phone call. Let me ask Audrey and Marianne to tell you about what happened to them when they got the call.
A vacancy came up for my husband within 3 months in one of the 3 long-term care homes we had chosen. We were not expecting it to happen so soon. We had to weigh the options, risk losing a place for many months or more, or make the move when we thought he was not ready. I certainly was not. It was a very tough 24 hours, but I accepted, and a weight was lifted from my shoulders. Later, I discovered that moving the person sooner rather than later eases the transition for the person with dementia, as they are less disoriented, and staff in the home get to know the new resident when they're still able to make personal connections and have positive relationships.
We were very surprised to receive the offer, even though we knew it would come at some point. When my mother was agonizing over the decision, I asked her to think about what would happen to Dad if she got sick. She was already so tired and stressed out. I reminded her that if something did happen to her, Dad might be placed in a long-term care facility that neither of them had chosen. It was really hard, but I knew it was the right decision, and I reassured her of that many times.
Here's how other families felt when they were going through what you're experiencing now. Whatever the circumstances, you're likely to feel that you're riding on an emotional roller coaster. Take a closer look at each emotion for suggestions on how to cope with what you may be feeling. As you'll see, it doesn't matter how you express your emotions as long as you acknowledge them. We've compiled a few suggestions for you based on what other families have told us about their experiences. As part of your pre-planning, I would also suggest that you learn as much as you can about the long-term care homes your family member will or may be moving to.
One very important thing you can do to help staff learn about your family member is to build a biography. I helped my mother with this project, and it was a pleasant experience. Taking the time to describe my father's background, working life, likes and dislikes, with pictures and notes, was a good way of remembering him as he used to be, and of helping staff get to know him too, both in the past and in the present.
My advice is to start thinking about what you can bring to the home. Audrey and I talked about what pieces of furniture and other items we could take to the home to help Leonard feel comfortable. We chose Leonard's lazy boy chair and a picture of the two of us fishing, in addition to some wonderful family photos. You'll want to make your family member's room look as much like home as you can, with familiar pictures, blankets, or pillows before the move, if possible. You can also plan to bring in personal things gradually, in stages after the move. These items will be nice surprises, and will give you many opportunities to talk about their part in your lives. My advice is to start thinking about what you can bring to the home. Audrey and I talked about what pieces of furniture and other items we could take to the home to help Leonard feel comfortable. We chose Leonard's lazy boy chair and a picture of the two of us fishing, in addition to some wonderful family photos. You'll want to make your family member's room look as much like home as you can, with familiar pictures, blankets, or pillows before the move, if possible. You can also plan to...
You should also discuss advanced care choices and values with your family, friends, and physician. When your family member moves to the long-term care home, the nurses and physicians there will need to know how your family wants them to respond in an emergency situation. Of course, you will always be called in an emergency, but if they can't reach you, they need guidance for the person's treatment. In any case, if there is a living will, have it ready to bring on the day of the move. You will have many forms and assessments to complete upon admission. My final piece of advice in this session is to take the time now to organize your paperwork. You'll be glad you did. I'm sure you have many questions. It's normal. There's much to think about, and each situation is different. Here are a few common questions from family caregivers that may give you some answers. We hope this session has been helpful to you. You can complete the other sessions in this online workshop or come back to this one if and when you need to. Thank you for taking the time to listen and learn from our experience. Remember to take care of yourself as you make preparations for your family's transition to long-term care.